All right. Good morning, everybody. It's Firearms Friday. Hey, so let's talk about some stuff. So I've got an article that Mario sent over to me before we get into the DGUs. Let's take a look at this one. Oh, screen sharing working right. Where's my boom? There we go. Fixed it. Florida lawmakers propose rolling back gun control laws passed after Parkland shooting. Oh, just does it, doesn't it? Just does it for you. So this is another example of Trump winning. Now I'm not saying Trump's directly involved in this, but it basically what you've got is now that the mandate is on, because Trump won so clearly and decisively, people are starting to find their nuts again. They're starting to say, "Oh, hey," and okay, that's a little oversimplified. Because of the absolute mandate from winning such a decisive victory, every swing state, I mean, absolutely just killed it. The left is starting to understand more and more that they've completely lost touch. They are completely disconnected. I mean, just completely disconnected from the reality of the American experience and what the American people want. And as the Democrats are realizing that, and we're seeing a meltdown on social media and the like, we're seeing their ratings plummet on CNN and MSNBC and the like. Finally, some of our Republicans are starting to sprout a sack and understand, we actually represent what the people are interested in. What the people are interested in is not trannies and abortions and infanticide and forever wars. What the people are interested in is world peace, cheap gas, and get the hell out of my pocketbook, get the hell out of my backyard, leave me alone. Let me build my little homestead, grow my little crops, and shoot guns in my backyard. That's what the people want. We said that very clearly. Oh, and by the way, send them all back. Right? What we want is what we had. Cheap gas and world peace. So, Tallahassee, Florida, Republican state lawmakers in Florida have filed 2 bills that would roll back gun control measures passed in the wake of the 2018 shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School at Parkland. Y'all, David Hogg has got to be absolutely wetting his pants right now. Y'all remember David Hogg, that skinny little shit kid that pretended like he was there? Okay, look, we've talked about this a little bit before. Cameron and I we were at a school shooting before they were cool. So we both attended Heritage High School in our senior year. School was shot up by a young man named TJ Solomon. When that happened, right? I've never pretended like this was some major traumatic experience for me. My baby sister was a little closer to it. I was a senior that year. My baby sister was a freshman. When that happened, I was on campus. I was on the school grounds at the back of the park, at the very farthest back corner of the parking lot, which was my regular parking spot, because I would get to school and I would sit on the trunk of my car and talk to some buddies and have a cigarette in the morning with my cup of coffee before I went into class. That's where I was when it went down, right? I was nowhere near what happened. David Hogg was apparently in a similar situation and has rallied that into a multi-million-dollar social media influencer career. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, there was no Facebook or Twitter when we got shot up. So that opportunity did not exist in the same way. Plus, at no point in my life was I such a sniveling little communist that I would try to capitalize on disarming my fellow man. you'd much more likely at 16, 17, 18 years old, you'd be much more likely to catch me arguing with police officers over why they should be in jail for attempting to enforce gun laws. So, even with a conservative supermajority in the legislature, the measures are expected to face some resistance in the state Senate, where the chamber's new president has expressed opposition to certain gun rights proposals. Okay, listen here, President of the Senate, right? President pro tem. I assume is the title. It's Florida. It's a little different than here in Georgia. This question is not difficult. Okay, if a gun law exists, if you're a legislator, a governor, an elected official of any kind in a jurisdiction where there exists any law which makes reference to the right of a person to keep and bear arms, you are wrong. If you have ever been a signatory to such a bill, you are a criminal. You have violated your oath of office, and you have made it a point to engage in a violation of Section 241, conspiracy against civil rights, and a violation of Section 242, the deprivation of civil liberties under color of law. You're a criminal. You belong behind bars. So I cordially invite you, every single elected official, to expediently and publicly unfuck yourselves. Absolutely, you should be rolling back gun control laws because the existence of any given one of them is crime. After a gunman killed 17 people and injured 17 others at the suburban Broward County High School in 2018, where he was allowed to go on a massacre because after having illegally disarmed the civilians who were teachers there, the security apparatus was replaced with a man who was too cowardly to do the job he was paid to do. You disarmed the civilians, and then you secured them with cowards. That's why he was able to kill 17 people. It's got nothing to do with the gun. It's got to do with the rightful armament of the citizen. Survivors of the Parkland massacre and family members of the victims descended on the state capitol in an extraordinary feat of advocacy, demanding action from the Republican-led legislature that had previously shunned gun control measures, but nonetheless passed wide-ranging legislation just weeks after the shooting. Like I've said many, many times before, while the Democrats are evil, the Republican Party is weak. The ascendancy of Donald Trump and the apparent veracity of his cabinet picks gives me reason to have hope. It's a big white pill, but by and large, Republicans are weak and Democrats are evil. And conservatives continue to go on conserving whatever it is the Democrats managed to do in the last administration. That measure included establishing a red flag law, which allows courts to take away guns from people who pose a danger to themselves or others, and a measure raising the age for buying a rifle from 18 to 21. Okay, red flag laws. And I'm not going to spend too much more time on this article because I do have some DGUs I want to get to this morning as well. But red flag laws. Oversimplified. Basically, it says that anybody who knows you or says they know you can call the police and say, I think that this person is a danger. And that's all it takes for you to be stripped of your civil liberties. And I do mean all of them. they put speech, religion, press, assembly, petition. They made that the First Amendment and argued that it was the most important. But I'll tell you this. Without the Second Amendment, none of them exist. Without the Second Amendment, we do not live in America in 2024, in current year. Not an option. So anytime that you see him talk about rolling back gun laws, absolutely get behind that. The idea, like, oh, well, we need common sense gun control. We have common sense gun control. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's all the common sense you need. Okay, I look forward to our state once again earning the title of the gunshine state, where citizens are no longer asked to trade God-given freedoms for a politician's empty promise of security. Republican State Rep. Joel Rudman said in a statement announcing a bill he's sponsoring that would allow the open carry of firearms and repeal the red flag law. That is a step in the right direction. This idea that Florida used to be the gunshine state, though, not so much. Florida has not been an especially pro-2A state. Now, they're no California, they're no New York, they're no New Jersey. But Florida has not had open carry or anything approaching a reasonable carry law for quite a while, for quite some time. They were late to the game. They've been late to the game heading toward constitutional carry, and they're not there yet. So, pray for Florida man. Let's hope he gets his rights back. Both Rudman and Fine are running in crowded primaries for seats in the U.S. House after President-elect Donald Trump nominated 2 congressmen from Florida to serve in his incoming administration. While the Florida House has advanced gun rights bills in the years since Parkland, leaders of the state Senate have blocked certain measures. Last month, newly sworn-in Senate President Ben Alberton told reporters he doesn't support open carry and is skeptical of rolling back other measures passed in the wake of the 2018 shooting. This right here, he doesn't support open carry and is skeptical of rolling back other measures. He's not eligible to serve. For someone to have taken the oath of office where you raise your hand and you say, I promise to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, and then express this opinion, what you're looking at is a person who has taken the oath in bad faith. And believe it or not, taking the oath of office in bad faith and violating the oath of office is a crime in and of itself. Ben Alberton, because he has taken the oath of office and then said, I don't support open carry, is a criminal. That's something that everybody needs to be crystal clear on. Every single politician, every single elected official who's raised their hand and taken the oath of office and then had anything to do with passing a gun control law is a criminal, is not eligible to hold the office, has violated the oath, and essentially impeached themselves in so doing. That is something that we need to be pursuing substantially. Right? These namby-pamby little organizations like the NRA that just try to play the appeasement game, they're missing the boat entirely. They're weak, they're feckless, and they're unacceptable. We need to be pursuing criminal charges against every single politician, elected official who has ever raised their hand, sworn the oath, and then been involved in gun control at any level. So, all right, let's get to some DGUs. This one is from Mario sent this one over to me. Why is it's not letting me share? What the hell? I see. There we go. Fort Lauderdale cops said the man who they fatally shot held family member at gunpoint. Jesus, Mario, what have you sent me? Police police fatally shot an armed man they say was having a mental health crisis and was holding a family member hostage outside a home in Fort Lauderdale Wednesday, December the 11th. MH. Anyway, Fort Lauderdale police said the man who officers fatally shot, Wednesday morning, had a gun and was holding a family member hostage. The grandfather of 21-year-old Jalen Moore originally called 911 for an ambulance, saying his son was having a mental health crisis. But later called back asking for police because the young man had a gun, according to the audio of the call released by Fort Lauderdale police. I didn't know the damn boy had a pistol in the house, the grandfather, whom police did not name, told the 911 operator. Detective Ali Adamson, a department spokeswoman, said that when officers arrived at the home at the 300 block of Southwest 25th Avenue around 10:45 a.m., Moore walked out holding the family member at gunpoint. The male continued to endanger those around him, including the officers, and officers were forced to engage him. 3 officers fired their weapons, Adamson said. Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue paramedics took Moore to Broward Health Medical Center. Hey, what do you know? We're back in Broward County. That's adorable. When the grandfather first called 911, he requested that only fire rescue paramedics come because the police just might make things worse. However, when the man realized Moore had the weapon, he called back and asked for police. But before he called back, paramedics had already arrived, saw Moore was armed, and left to wait for officers, according to the 911 calls. Grandfather said he went outside to the house to get away from Moore. A woman also called 911 from a nearby home, saying that her sister called her and was inside the house with a 6-month-old baby. Jesus Christ. The woman also told the operator that Moore had a gun. Police have not released the familial relationship between Moore and the mother and child. As with all cases in which police shoot someone, the case is now under investigation by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. In accordance with departmental policy, the officers involved have been placed on administrative leave with pay pending the outcome of FDLE's investigation and an internal review. That's just the reporter. Jesus Christ. Okay, so you got a 21-year-old, and I guess we can infer that the woman there is the baby mama. That's tough, man. That's a tough one. I mean, okay, so it's a little, the way it's written, it's a little unclear what exactly happened. Because it says that he came out holding the family member, but it doesn't specify who that family member was. It mentions a woman and her baby. It mentions the grandfather. But the way it's written, it's unclear as to whether there's a third family member involved, or if it said we don't know what the familial link is between the shooter and the woman with the child. The information's a little scant, but pennies to pesos based on the ages and the outcome and the activity. I would assume we've got some drug involvement. Maybe looking at some money or custody disputes between a shithead kid and his baby mama. I don't know what else to do with that one. Mario, your article quality is slipping. Try again. So let's check this one out. This one. I was talking about gun control. This is the kind of person who argues for gun control. Grandfather of teen killed during burglary says AR-15 made fight unfair. All right, Pops. Your kid was doing burglary. Your grandson Right? Your grandson was committing crime. The fight wasn't unfair. Right? Let's be clear about this. Crime is work. Crime is a job. Right? A burglar can make pretty good money if he's skilled and efficient at his job. But just like being an electrician, a plumber, a soldier, when you take that job, when you get involved in that profession, you are taking on a certain level of risk. And sorry, buddy, that's the game. That's the job. Right? That's what you signed up for. So Willow Bar asks, was the kid doing the burglaring or was he being burgled? Well, let's find out, because yes, he was doing the burglary. Grandfather of teen killed during burglary says AR-15 made fight unfair. 3 Oklahoma teens were killed after breaking into a house and being greeted by the homeowner's son and an AR-15. After their untimely demise, one suspect's grandfather spoke out about the circumstances surrounding his grandson's death. Okay, he says it made the fight unfair. It was 3-1. I mean, okay. So if he had been armed with a lesser firearm, it would have been more fair. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but handguns, until you start talking about some like 22 long rifle plinker little pistol, the ammunition in most handguns tends to be a little bit larger than the ammunition in an AR style rifle, right? AR-15, it's talking 223, maybe 5.56, which is still a 223 with a little more powder load. But 3 Oklahoma teens were killed after breaking into a house and being greeted by the homeowner's son. I hope it tells us how old the son was, because it sounds like 4 teenagers. Leroy Schumacher, the grandfather of slain Oklahoma burglar. That's not accused, not alleged. Nope, dead. Slain Oklahoma burglar decided to speak out after his 17-year-old grandson's death. Don't get me wrong. I'm not laughing about this guy's grandson being dead. And please believe me. If my son is doing crime and he gets himself killed doing crime, I'm going to be mad about it, right? And part of what I'm going to be mad about is the utter shame I will feel for having failed him so completely as a father, as a role model, as an exemplar, right? So, I mean, yeah, that's definitely part. Waller says an AR just makes things more accurate opposed to a pistol. Yep. And I'm pretty good with a pistol. I've got buddies that are very, very good with a pistol. You don't want to play with me on a rifle. No, sir. I don't have to have both hands on it, and I'm hell on wheels. I've seen me do it. So the grandfather of Slain decided to speak out. Jacob Redford, who had previously been in foster care, was one of 3 Oklahoma teens killed when they broke into a house and came face to face with the homeowner's son, who was armed with an AR-15. And Leroy had a pretty strong opinion about what went down that day. According to Leroy Schumacher, even though his grandson was in the middle of a burglary when he was killed, his death was unjustified. Tulsa ABC 8 reported. No, Leroy, I don't need to know anything else. I mean, we're gonna get through more of the article, but I don't need to know anything else. Your rights end at the end of your fist, or at the end of my nose. Right? You have the right to speak. You have the right to keep and bear arms. You have the right not to have soldiers bivouacked in your private residence. You have the right to counsel. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to shut up, stop talking after you've made the mistake of beginning to speak. Right to petition your government, the right to keep and bear arms, the right to a speedy trial, et cetera, et cetera. When your rights end is when they start to infringe on the rights of another. Right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which was originally penned as life, liberty, and property. And we do have rights to our property. Without the right to property, we are a communist hellhole. You go and try to take someone else's property by force, and, well, this isn't complicated. If you come and try to take my property by force, then by force will you be met. That is my right. It is it's a lesser reason, but it is one of the primary reasons for the existence of the Second Amendment. Of course, the main reason being to prevent the government from doing just that. According to Leroy, the grieving grandfather acknowledged that breaking into a house was stupid, but he said that the AR-15 gave the homeowner's son an unfair advantage over the 3 burglars. 3! There were 3! It didn't give him an unfair advantage. The firearm is the great equalizer, right? It's like we constantly say on the show, ladies, carry a firearm, carry a pistol, right? Because you're not going to fight off a big, strong man in a dark alley, but you can shoot him. Oh. Jacob Redfern, the grandson of Leroy Schumacher, was killed during a burglary of the Oklahoma home. That's a pretty house. It all began with 21-year-old Elizabeth Rodriguez, who authorities believe was the ringleader. Rodriguez, a mother a 21-year-old mother of 3 in need of rent money, drove 19-year-old Maxwell Cook, 16-year-old Jake Woodruff, and 17-year-old Jacob Redfern, who she says all live with her, to the Wagner County home. They first stole liquor, speakers, and a machete from the garage, but then Rodriguez said they got greedy. After deciding to break into the main house, the young men, wearing all black, donning masks, and armed with brass knuckles and a knife, went inside with Rodriguez, waited with a teenage girl in the getaway car. Wow! Zachary Peters, the homeowner's 23-year-old son, was taking a nap when he heard a door slam and glass shatter at approximately 12:30 in the afternoon. You. Okay. You caught me taking my afternoon nap right after lunch. You woke me up. Yeah. Freedom seeds all day, baby. Freedom seeds. Stryker asks, do I have any inclinations to do call-ins down the road? Yes. And I'd like to work out a system where I can easily hand a link to just have you pop in. And I can do that for guys like you, Stryker, because we have contact on other platforms. But yeah. Yes. So the answer to your question is yes. And we've done them before. It's a little tricky with the equipment, and we'll get back to it. So after deciding to break into the main house, the young men, wearing all black, donning masks, and armed with brass knuckles and a knife. Yep, I'm putting freedom seeds in all of your bread baskets. It's too easy. Went inside while Rodriguez waited with a teenage girl in the getaway car. Zachary Peters, the homeowner's 23-year-old son, was taking a nap. According to news on 6, Peters grabbed his father's rifle before coming face to face with the 3 suspects, who all froze when they saw him. If my 9-year-old son shot 3 burglars with my rifle in my house because he was there and I was not, I would immediately buy him his own damn rifle. Okay, fearing for his life against the masked intruders and worried they had a weapon, which they did, by the way, Peters opened fire. When asked if the suspects tried to hurt him, he admitted that he never gave them the chance, which is the correct thing to do, but probably not the correct thing to say. Right? And I can say pretty definitively it's probably not the correct thing to say because he said it to cops. Don't talk to cops. I have nothing to say without my lawyer present. And once my lawyer's present, I have nothing to say. Right? They're not required by law to Mirandize you until you've been arrested and you're actually in an interrogation incident to arrest. Right? That whole thing, oh, you haven't read me my rights. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. No. You always have the right to remain silent. They cannot compel you to speak. You cannot be compelled to self-incriminate, and you can't be required to help them with their investigation. And I'll tell you something. You got 3 dead bodies on the ground in your own home. The cops, by and large, now in a small town like where I live, they're going to walk in and be like, oh, damn, bad day, huh, Chris? Not really. Oh, gotcha. We'll get this cleaned up for you. I appreciate it, brother. Right? That's kind of how that works in the in the country. But where is it? It says Oklahoma. Did it say what city? Anyway, in a larger city, the cops, they see bodies on the ground. They want to put somebody in jail. They want you to be wrong. And anything you say can and will be, and you hear this, anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. Let me clarify something for you real quick. When they say anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law, they're actively looking to cause you harm. They're actively looking to twist something you say to make it sound as bad as humanly possible. And more importantly than that, while anything you say can be held against you, can be used against you in a court of law, nothing you can say, there is not a word that can leave your mouth outside of I invoke my Fifth Amendment rights and I demand my attorney. There is nothing you can say that can serve in your defense. Even just loudly proclaiming, I didn't do it, loudly proclaiming your innocence, that does not help you when you get to court. Nothing you can say can help you. Now, I'll do some speculation on this in a minute. We'll get into some of the weirdness here. Let's get through the rest of the story. That's when Peter said he retreated to his bedroom, locked himself inside, and called 911. Oh, let me back up. Okay, fearing for his life against the masked intruders who worried they had a weapon, Peters opened fire. When asked if the suspects tried to hurt him, he admitted that he never gave him the chance. He shot the suspect closest to him first and didn't stop until the last suspect managed to run out of the house. That's when Peters said he retreated to his bedroom, locked himself inside, and called 911. During the 911 call, Peters pleaded for medical help for the suspects, but it was too late. When Wagner County Sheriff's deputies arrived, Peters dropped his gun and followed their orders. All 3 suspects died at the scene. Even though Rodriguez later admitted that one suspect made it to the getaway car, slid across the hood saying, I got hit. Rodriguez, who was not injured, fled. Holy shit! This lumpy bitch just straight left him. Wow. The arrest and charges filed. Rodriguez later went to the police, admitted her involvement, and told investigators that she had planned the whole thing. She was arrested and charged with first and second degree burglary, as well as 3 counts of first degree murder, since Oklahoma State says someone can be charged with murder if another person takes the life of a human being during their commission of a felony. So, yeah, we've talked about felony murder, first degree murder before. And this is kind of like, okay, so you and your homeboy, both armed, you go in to rob a liquor store. One of you gets shot by the store owner, dies at the scene. You, the other criminal in this case, what's going to happen is the store owner is either not going to be charged. What should happen? He should not be charged. Clear-cut case of self-defense. If he's charged with anything, it should be a clear-cut acquittal for reasons of self-defense, and that will be his affirmative defense. Armed attackers, I defended myself with my lawfully possessed firearm. But the accomplice, the other guy that ran away and didn't die, if he gets arrested, he's going to be charged with burglary, or not burglary, robbery. Sorry, armed robbery and felony murder. Because but for his criminal activity, his partner would not have died. Right? That goes even a step further. Let's say you got 2 guys robbing a store. The clerk, the owner, whoever, opens fire, misses both of them. They both get away clean at the time. Later, they're arrested, and it's discovered that the clerk who fired that shot missed both of them, hit a customer, and that customer died. The clerk might be charged with something like negligent homicide or something like that, although probably not, given the circumstances. But the 2 of you are now going down for felony murder because that death is the result of your criminal activity. Right? So let's pop back over here. Rodriguez later went to the police. She was arrested and charged first and second degree burglary, 3 counts of first degree murder. For her part, Rodriguez can face life in prison or even the death penalty, but it's the homeowner's son in the AR-15 that Leroy Schumacher seemingly blames for his grandson's death. Yeah, let's back up just a minute. Remember, we started this article with this, one of these criminals, his grandfather is offended that his grandson's victim was armed and did not allow the grandson to murder him with a knife and brass knuckles in order to steal his property. That's where we're at. Right? They knew they could be punished for it, but they did not deserve to die, he continued. Brass knuckles against an AR-15? Come on. Who was afraid for their life? Oh, any reasonable human being. Right? There were several cases last year of where veterans, a few of them were veterans, some of them were actually police officers, off-duty police officers, involved in, we talked about this at the time, but it's been a while. So I don't remember the details very clearly, but the gist of it, there are several different cases where it was a self-defense case, pretty clear-cut self-defense case, and the self-defense, the victim who had defended himself with lethal force against an attacker was charged, and the prosecutor, and these, I think all of them, I think we made this point at the time, they were all, a bunch of Soros-funded DA types, right? And they made the argument that it wasn't self-defense because An element of self-defense is that you are in fear for your life, that you are in fear that you will be killed or suffer bodily harm. And these defendants were veterans, combat veterans, police officers, people who had experience and training and had actually been in gunfights, right? Cats like me with a combat action badge or a CIB, right? And so the argument they made was that these guys are not, these are not cases of self-defense because these guys were not afraid for their life. They didn't actually fear because they have the experience and they're no longer afraid. These are people who run into combat, who have voluntarily entered gunfights on purpose, and therefore they are not psychologically capable of having fear. And thankfully, those did not go the way for the DA, because it was explained to the DA the language, and this maybe the language in the law needs to be changed. The language in the law is fear of imminent death, bodily harm, etc. Maybe that language should be perception of death, bodily harm, etc. Okay, I've been in a few gunfights. I've been in some combat. I've traded bullets with bad guys. I've been shot at. I've been in fist fights. I've been in knife fights. Right? Been a while. Been a long time. But the idea, I'm not gonna, so I don't believe, because it's not what I felt before, that I would feel what you would call fear generally if I was to find myself in a self-defense situation like that. But that I'm not afraid, that I'm not paralyzed by an emotion, that because of my experience and training, I have the wherewithal and the capacity to engage efficiently and end the threat, does not negate the fact that I can perceive and recognize that the threat is presented. If the threat of bodily harm or death is present, then you had better believe I will do what I need to do to not suffer those consequences. I don't think of it as self-defense so much as risk mitigation. Right? Are you a risk? Let's get you mitigated. Right? Your firearm is not a weapon, it's an insurance policy. If you recognize a risk, mitigate the fuck out of that son of a bitch. Hey, His Majesty joins us from his afternoon with the Germans. And he says it's cold and gray over in Germany. Well, it's kind of like that over here right now too, old man. But we look forward to seeing you back next week. Love you. Oh, now this story, I cannot help but guess that there are drugs and some nonsense involved here. It called her a 21-year-old single mother of 3. And it said that she's living with all 3 of those boys who are teenagers. So Rodriguez didn't deserve to die. Authorities didn't agree with Schumacher's sentiments, however, and Zach Peters was not charged with any crimes because police say he acted in self-defense, obviously. Schumacher was not convinced that the shooting was justified, though, and reiterated his belief that the consequences didn't fit the crime. Okay, Schumacher's Schumacher's utter inability to understand what consequences are and therethrough transmit in an efficient vehicle a moral grounding to his progeny and descendants is why his grandson is shacked up with this doped out, cracked out lunchbox and burglarizing people's homes, armed and committing burglary. So frankly, whatever this Schumacher cat says, he's wrong. How do I know he's wrong? Darwinism, baby. I know he's wrong because his ineffective mind resulted in progeny who suffered who created risk that caused their end. He chose an ineffective survival strategy, and it didn't work for him. That's how I know he's wrong. Although Schumacher said he supports the Second Amendment right to bear arms, he doesn't agree with killing home invaders. Then you don't support the right to bear arms. All right? This is what I'll close on. Pacifism. This will kind of be your safety brief. Pacifism sounds good on paper. Kind of. Except not really. Oh, I would never want to hurt anybody. I mean, I want to be safe, but I wouldn't want to hurt anybody. Right? There's that podcast that they do. I forget what it's called now, but it's they get a bunch of like OnlyFans girls on there and they talk politics and crap. And I've never watched the show, but I've watched some of the clips. And they had one where the guy was asking this panel of girls, you know, if they wanted their boyfriends or husbands to be armed. Well, no, I think he should look for a better way. What? Understand, we're talking about what you're going to do, what your capability is, what your survival expectation is when a person who is armed comes to kill you. Let me tell you, here's what your option is. That's your option. That's the correct answer. Dead bad guys don't do bad shit. Pacifism. I support the Second Amendment, but I don't think we should kill people. Shut up. Because here's what you just said. Nothing and no one in this world. There is nothing and no one in this world that I value above the life of another human being. Even if that human being is directly engaged in the process of murdering another human being. If you think that you can value life so highly that you would never take a life under any circumstances, those any circumstances include the circumstance wherein your choice not to take the life of a motivated aggressor is a tantamount support of that same aggressor's activity. You are letting him murder someone. If you stop him from murdering someone, or for example, several someone's on a New York City bus, thank you very much, Daniel Penny, you fucking legend. If you stop the bad guy from doing the murdering, that is not murder. There's a reason that we have more than one word for this. There's a reason that the word homicide does not define the culpability of premeditation, malicious intent, and the mens rea that goes with murder. I, personally, have never murdered anyone. I've killed some dudes, quite a few of them. But I never murdered anybody. There is a difference. When you're talking about a bad guy doing bad shit to regular people, if he dies in the course of you preventing him from hurting those people, you are not doing murder. If you walk up behind a man on the street, shoot him a few times in the back, that's a murder. That's a murder, right? Daniel Penny, not a murderer. Luigi Mangione, probably a murderer. Maybe a murderer. That's okay. There's still some fog there because we don't actually know if he's the guy yet. But now he's at least a suspect. So here's your safety brief. You're running out of weekends in the Christmas season. Get that shopping done, but January 1st is not far away. New year, new rounds, clean your guns. Clean and efficient firearms. Take care of your shit. Just sat down and cleaned my daily and the wife's daily the other day. And boy, do they look pretty when they're all shiny and slick. Got that CLP coursing through the little metal veins, doing what it's supposed to do. Oh, it makes me happy. But yeah, Waller says I can understand pacifists. I cannot. A pacifist is someone who values nothing. Pacifism is nihilism. Pacifism is you're black-pilled. Nothing has value. And if you're ever curious about what I value, buddy, I tell you what, I got a wife and 4 kids. I got a mommy and a daddy I love. Every other life, in the face of their risk or inconvenience, every other life can be forfeit. It really is that simple. So, thanks for watching this morning, guys. That's your safety brief and Firearms Friday. Be safe out there. Be careful. Be suspicious. It's Friday the 13th, right? Wasn't that long ago we had murder hobo clowns coming out of the forest in Georgia around an election. Actually, it was almost fucking 10 years ago. Wow. Woo! But y'all be safe. We love you. And we will see you on Monday.